joining us now to scope all this out, Hogan Gidley. Hogan, live from the White House. Hogan is the Deputy Press Secretary to the President of the United States and Deputy Spokesperson. Hogan, great to have you with us.
No, thanks so much for the time. It's great to be with you.
Hogan, what a day yesterday. So let me get this straight. You're going into the White House to negotiate on roads and bridges and more money for Amtrak, hopefully, and ports, infrastructure with the president. You're supposed to go in good faith.
Broadband,
and
everything.
1 hour before you go in, you accuse the president of a cover-up, and then you think you're going to walk in there and everything's going to be hunky-dory. What is wrong with these people?
I have no idea. And then they tried to accuse us of being, prepared for this all along to stage something like this. It's so utterly ridiculous. We didn't know Nancy Pelosi was going to go out and start a conspiracy theory just moments before coming over here and trying to work with this president. Listen, just say this out loud. She accused the president of a crime and then wanted to come over here and then lamented the fact that she couldn't make a deal with a criminal in her mind. So I don't even understand what she's talking about. It's literally Russian collusion 2.0 in the sense that they pushed a narrative that was a complete and total lie. They had no proof and no evidence of it for 2 years. And then she comes out and says he's participating in a cover-up with no proof and no evidence yet again. What's incredible about that is not only drug the American people through this now on multiple fronts, but the media lap it up as if it's absolute fact the president's in a cover-up. We literally have released every jot and tittle of the Mueller report. The American people can see it. You can go on Google and see it. And even like I think it's 0.1% of it was redacted. The unredacted portions, the Democrats have the right to go and see in a secure location on the Hill, and not one Democrat has gone to see it. So this whole thing is set up for a stage for political theater that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer want to perform on behalf of their radical left base.
You look at just one day yesterday, and I know we have a lot to cover today, Hogan, in a short period of time, but you just look at one day on the Hill and these testimonies. I mean, first of all, you've got freshman Representative Underwood accusing the Director of Homeland Security and a CPB for purposely, and this is her words, purposely causing the death of migrant children, basically letting them die for political gain. This is what she accuses them of in a public hearing. And no outrage. Where's the legacy, lamestream, lying, fake news media?
That's not incitement?
I don't know what it is. It's
I'm saying, like, every time we say something that's clearly not incitement, they rip us apart saying we cause all this death and destruction. They're literally blaming us, saying that we're murdering people on purpose, and that's not considered incitement by the mainstream media. Listen, that's one of the most egregious, ridiculous, grotesque things I've seen since I've been in the White House. We are literally working every day with the bully pulpit of the presidency, with Customs Border Protection, our ICE agents on the ground, trying to protect the American people from needless, senseless deaths that are 100% preventable, not just for our citizens, the American people, hundreds of millions of them, many of whom have been killed by people who have no right to be here and are in this country illegally and unlawfully. We're also fighting to protect the lives of those who have magnets within the law of the United States immigration system to come here illegally. And Democrats refuse to change those laws at all. We put forth a supplemental with billions of dollars to try and work on the ports of entry, technology, but also add the beds and detention facilities and all those types of things. Democrats wouldn't vote for it. They don't like having nice conditions for the people coming across illegally, and then they blame us for it like it's our fault. You remember Bernie Sanders on Fox News when they asked him about what would you do when people come here legally? He said, well, I build them nice facilities on the border. They don't need to come into sanctuary cities. That's another debate. But what do you mean build things for them on the border? We've actually put that forth multiple times, and you voted against it every time. I mean, I'm so sick and tired of the sanctimony on the left trying to push a narrative that we are first against immigration, which is not true, but also causing deaths. The loopholes in the law and the magnets that allow child smugglers and drug cartels and human traffickers to profit and make money are left there by Democrats, and they will not come to the table to close them.
Well, how about the report of the illegal that came out yesterday that rented a 3-month-old baby and strapped him around his chest in order to get over the border, and then as soon as he's over, he just leaves it to die? I mean, these are the reports that are coming out every day, and yet the Democrats will do nothing to address any of this, Hogan.
Not a thing. And we saw someone, I think, killed in Maryland just recently, also a couple of days ago, who came here as an unaccompanied. It was two of them, two of the folks accused of the murder. One was an unaccompanied minor, and one came, I think, in a family unit as well from another country. I mean, these are the types of things we have to stop. We can prevent them. All we have to do is confront some of these egregious laws. It's pretty simple, and the president says we can fix it in 15 minutes. That's not hyperbole. We can fix it in 15 minutes if Democrats would just put down their swords and put aside their insane desire to try and take down this president. Instead, they should try and take down some of these horrific laws that are preventing the American people from living in peace with a rational, reasonable immigration system. We cannot continue to allow people to come into this country in the manner in which they do. It's fine. 1.1 million people coming in here legally every year. We're for that. We just put forth a plan for a long-term lasting solution that doesn't lower the number. It's the same. Because we want people to come to this country. We want merit-based immigration, people who want to be here, who assimilate, who speak English, who want to enjoy the American idea. That is, it is the best idea in the history of the planet. We want people here who can make this country better. And so often right now what we have is people who don't. That's got to change, and Democrats, they're just on the hook for it. And I think the American people are starting to see through their lies and disinformation campaign.
When you rolled out your immigration reform legislative plan last week, as soon as it hit paper, as soon as it was delivered, the Democratic leadership in Congress immediately said it's dead on arrival. They never even looked at it or did anything with it. So my question to you is, when there's conversations with Democratic leadership and they said that plan is dead on arrival, DOA, what plan do they want other than open borders and amnesty? Like, what do they want? Do they not want merit-based immigration? Do they not want to solve any of these problems? Do they not want to refine the asylum law so there's not a magnet? What do they want?
You don't have to guess, John. They've said it openly. They do want open borders. You heard one of the high-ranking Democrats just the other day make the comment that she wouldn't use the detention facilities in this country if people come here illegally and unlawfully. They asked, what would you do? Would you want to at least keep the families incarcerated or in detention for 20-plus days together, at least keep them together? Would you do that? And she replied, no, I don't think I'd use the detention facilities whatsoever. So, again, I'd be a little upset if I were an American citizen who said, listen, someone in this country, an American, commits a crime and they have to do the time, but if you come in from another country illegally and unlawfully and commit a crime, you're not going to put them in jail? You're not going to put them in a detention facility? I mean, they're openly stating they want open borders. They're openly stating this. This isn't a guess anymore, and this is something Donald Trump predicted when he was on the campaign trail. He predicted and told the American people it was coming. He forecast the dangers and the horrors and the horrific numbers that we see now, and Democrats turned a blind eye to it. And now we're starting to see this data come in. It's inexcusable. Some on the mainstream media, you got to give them credit. They found religion in the last few days and weeks. They weren't with us during the shutdown. They accused the administration of lying about immigration. It wasn't really a problem. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer stood side by side in that infamous video where they called it a manufactured crisis 3 times. And then here we are a few weeks later. It's just as bad, and now all of a sudden the mainstream media say, yeah, we actually do have a problem at the southern border. Well, thanks. But it's a little too late to recognize reality and believe facts and statistical data and your lying eyes when you see people pouring across the border unimpeded.
Well, listen, Hogan, Gidley, this is a horrific situation, and the Democrats are absolutely doing nothing about it. They don't want to do anything about it because, as we've said, they want open borders, which brings them cheap votes, and it's been going on for a very long time. There's really nothing different here. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network. We're with Hogan Gidley. Hogan is live at the White House. He is the deputy press secretary to President Trump. Hogan, let's get to China right now. The president's standing firm with his tariffs, another $300 billion to 25%. Meantime, the Chinese saying that they're going to retaliate. They don't really have a lot to retaliate with because we have a $500 billion annual trade deficit going their way. So they have very few chips to play. But the president, for the first time, stood up to them. Meantime, they continue to steal our technology. They tried to implant fake bugs into government phones that they sold the Italian government. And I think the president's finally called them out. What's the end game here?
Well, look, you hit the nail on the head. Even some who are the president's detractors say the economy in this country is booming. We have every right to try and protect ourselves. This is something that's been going on for a long time, that no one has had the guts or the backbone to push and move to the protection of American industry and American businesses and the American farmers. And this president's doing it. And this is the right time. So many, as I just mentioned, who are his detractors are saying, look, if you can't do it now, when can you do it? We're in a great place economically. China's on the way down. We're the hottest economy on the planet thanks to the president's deregulation and tax cut package. And people are doing better. Wages are up. Obviously, the unemployment are at record lows. It's amazing numbers. And data for the American people, more money in their pockets. And this is the time to fight for what's right with these other countries and try and fix some of these trade deals. Listen, the Chinese obviously have said that they think in much longer terms than we do here in America because they don't have elections quite like we do here. No one really does. But they really want to try and hold China's feet to the fire here because we've got to protect the American people, and the American workers have been taken advantage of for far too long. And you mentioned $500 billion we lose to China every year. Other presidents have recognized it; they just haven't moved to protect the people, and that's what this president's doing.
So let's get back to the debacle yesterday, where Schumer and Pelosi said, and you alluded to it earlier, Hogan, that the whole event yesterday was staged because you had some makeshift signs up. Did the president or did the president not get up yesterday morning fully expecting to engage in an infrastructure negotiation?
100%. We were expecting to move forward on immigration. I was in the Oval Office when he talked to the speaker after the first meeting, and he said, look, we really need to do some things here, Nancy. I'm excited about what we can do, and she agreed. She thought it was a great meeting, and we've moved forward. And it was so funny. I had so many people from the press come in and ask me about that sign. Well, you guys knew this was going to happen. You had signs printed. You were ready. That sign was made like 2 months ago. The president tweeted the sign out on his Twitter account like mid-April. I mean, that's so ridiculous. And that just shows you, though, the mindset of the media. They're more concerned about the collateral materials than they are about the collateral damage done by Democrats and their political stunts. I mean, they're leaving the American people with a dangerously dysfunctioning infrastructure system. We have no immigration system. Health care needs work. And the Democrats won't do anything to fix any of those issues for the American people. And the media wants to focus on how did this press conference come about? What happened with the sign? How did you get the sign up on the podium? Those are the questions I got yesterday. When was it printed? Not, let's talk about the substance, that we had an infrastructure package we needed to work on, and the Democrats completely nuked it by coming out and accusing the president of a cover-up without any evidence at all. That's the kind of stuff they don't focus on. They'd rather focus on palace intrigue 9 times out of 10. And that yesterday's press conference was a perfect example, because the questions I got afterwards were not about what do we do moving forward and what kind of deals do you think the president can make. It was, tell us about the sign. I mean, that's the kind of ridiculous stuff I have to deal with every day.
It is unbelievable. it was obvious those signs had already been printed up, and you guys just put them up there. I mean, I saw you directing traffic, as I said when we saw each other at the White House yesterday, and give a 2-minute call there. Because this was all hastily put together. You were fully expected to go in.
We didn't know Nancy Pelosi was going to come out and accuse the president of a cover-up.
Exactly.
So there's no way we would have known that. So to pretend as though we had this whole thing planned out is completely disingenuous.
Well, and for her to do that, obviously, she's very savvy. She knows, having done that was going to gum up any type of negotiation. I don't know how you go an hour later and go to the president and try to have a fruitful, meaningful discussion when you just accuse them of a crime publicly on national TV. I mean, I just don't know how that math works. Anybody that has any savvy at all would understand that this basically was done to blow up those negotiations. So now you get to the point you got to ask yourself, and I'm going to ask you this question. Do the Democrats want to negotiate anything? Do they want to legislate anything? Or is everything just going to get put off to 2020?
Well, I mean, look, that's obviously a question for Democrats, but I can say their posture right now is all about investigations. I mean, look, we had a choice with 2 words yesterday, 2 I words, in fact. We could have gone with infrastructure, or we could have gone with impeachment. Democrats chose impeachment, and that's why we are where we are today because of their poor choices. And look, people are saying, well, is this about Donald Trump? Who gains politically here? This is a jockeying a position between the White House and the Speaker. Who's going to lose? I'll tell you who's going to lose: the American people, because Democrats won't take anything seriously anymore. The American people are the ones who are left with this infrastructure system and a health care system in need of repair. An immigration system doesn't protect them, that puts the interests of other people who are here illegally and unlawfully first. That's the type of thing that's affected by the Democrats and their grandstanding, whether it's these ridiculous hearings they're trying to hold on the Hill, asking for material they know is illegal for them to see, and then crowing about it to the media, and no one in the media asking Chairman Nadler and people up there on the Hill, you know it's illegal for you to see this. Why are you asking for these documents? No one asks that. They say, why aren't you giving the documents for us? It's insane to watch this go back and forth and to not get at the core of the issue, which is Democrats' obstruction and the fact that they don't have what they want out of the Mueller report. They continue to push a narrative without any evidence or any proof. They say they've been stonewalled when the entire report has been made public. Hours and hours and hours, hundreds, in fact, of testimony. I tweeted something yesterday of 1.4 million pieces of paper, the 2,800 subpoenas, 500 witnesses, 500 warrants, the 40 FBI agents, 19 attorneys, 18 of which, as the president would say, were angry Democrats, and there's no collusion, and they just can't get over it.
What is their obsession with the president's past tax returns?
I don't know. The president filled out 100-plus pages of a financial disclosure form when he ran for president, and it proved a couple things. One is he's a billionaire, and he's very successful. And 2 is that he did nothing wrong. They just can't stand the fact that they lost that election in 2016. They wanted his tax returns then. It was litigated. No one cared then. They didn't vote on that issue. And here we are now in the same situation where they're pushing for things no one cares about. And the real issues that impact people, the real issues that affect their lives every day, are nowhere to be found in the 100-plus days of Democrat control in Congress. Instead, what we see rather than legislation is investigation. Mm-hmm. And that's a decision that they've openly made. And you can't come over here and try and pretend as though you want to make a deal, go out, trash the president, come back, and then accuse him of a crime, and then come over and want to talk more about making a deal. That's not the way it works. And the president was very clear and very calm and very concise and said, listen, I'm happy to work with you guys. I said I would. Even when you guys took over the House, the Democrats did. I'm happy to work with Democrats. But let's get this going. There are 2 tracks you can take. You can take the investigative track, or you can take the legislative track. You can't do both because we don't have enough time, and the American people deserve better, and they've chosen to take the investigative track instead, and that's on them.
Look, Hogan, they're going to pay for it in 2020. This is all going to get relitigated then, and the president is going to get reelected again. He's going to win again, only bigger. People are tired of this nonsense. Absolutely. Hogan, we're out of time. I really want to thank you for
Thanks
clearing
so
everything
much.
up and being with us. Have a great Memorial Day weekend, Hogan. Hogan Gidley, Deputy Press Secretary, President Trump. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network.